This is Herb Alpert, American trumpet player, band leader, and composer. Now, if you're looking for the only musician to hit #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 as both a vocalist and an instrumentalist, you came to the right place. This video will examine the life and music of Herb Alpert. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the life and music of Herb Alpert. Herb Alpert, born March 31st, 1935, is an American trumpeter who led the band Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, sometimes called Herb Alpert and the TJB, in the 1960s. During the same decade, he co-founded A&M Records with Jerry Moss. Alpert has recorded 28 albums that have landed on the US Billboard 200 chart, 5 of which became #1 albums. He also scored 14 platinum albums and 15 gold albums. Alpert is the only musician to hit #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 as both a vocalist, This Guy's in Love with You, 1968, and as an instrumentalist, Rise, 1979. Alpert has sold an estimated 72 million records worldwide. He has received many accolades, including a Tony Award and 8 Grammy Awards, as well as the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. In 2006, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Alpert was awarded the National Medal of Honor by Barack Obama in 2013. Herb Alpert was born and raised in the Boyle Heights section of East Side, Los Angeles, California. He was the youngest of 3 children, a daughter and 2 sons, born to Tilly and Louis Alpert. His parents were Jewish immigrants to the U.S. from present-day Ukraine and Romania. Alpert was born into a family of musicians. His father, although a tailor by trade, was also a talented mandolin player. His mother taught violin at a young age, and his older brother David was a talented young drummer. His sister Mimi, who was the oldest, played the piano. Herb began to play trumpet at 8 years old. Alpert started attending Fairfax High School in Los Angeles beginning in 10th grade. In 11th grade in 1952, he was a member of their gym team. One of his specialties was performing on the rings, but an appendectomy a week before a league meet sidelined his path. In his senior year, 1953, he took to focusing on his trumpet. While attending the University of Southern California in the 1950s, he was a member of the USC Trojan Marching Band for 2 years. Alpert served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, where he played in the 6th Army Band. In 1956, he appeared in an uncredited role as drummer on Mount Sinai in the 10 Commandments. In 1957, Alpert teamed up with Rob Wirtz, another burgeoning lyricist, as a songwriter for Keane Records. A number of songs written or co-written by Alpert during the following 2 years became top 20 hits, including Baby Talk by Jan and Dean and Wonderful World by Sam Cooke. In 1960, he began his recording career as a vocalist at RCA Records under the name of Dor Alpert. In 1962, Alpert and his new business partner, Jerry Moss, formed Carnival Records with Tell It to the Birds as its first release, distribution outside of Los Angeles being done by Dot Records. After Carnival released its second single, Love Is Back in Style, by Charlie Robinson, Alpert and Moss found that there was prior usage of the Carnival name and renamed their label A&M Records. The song that jump-started Alpert's performing career was originally titled Twinkle Star, written by Soul Lake, who would write many Tijuana Brass songs over the next decade. Alpert was dissatisfied with his first efforts to record the song, then took a break to visit a bullfight in Tijuana, Mexico. As Alpert later recounted, "That's when it hit me. Something in the excitement of the crowd, the traditional mariachi music, the trumpet call heralding the start of the fight, the yelling, the snorting of the bulls, it all clicked." Alpert adapted the tune to the trumpet style, mixed in crowd cheers and other noises for ambiance, and renamed the song The Lonely Bull. He personally funded the production of the record as a single, and it spread through radio DJs until it caught on, until it became a top 10 hit in the fall of 1962. He followed up quickly with his debut album, The Lonely Bull, by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. It was A&M's first record, with the original release number being number 101, although it was recorded for Conway Records. The title cut reached number 6 on the Billboard pop charts. For this album and subsequent releases, Alpert recorded with a group of Los Angeles session musicians known as the Wrecking Crew, whom he holds in high regard. Alpert's 1965 album, Whipped Cream and Other Delights, proved so popular that it was a number 1 album of 1966, outselling the Beatles, Frank Sinatra, and the Rolling Stones, that Alpert had to turn the Tijuana Brass into an actual touring ensemble rather than a studio band. Some of that popularity might be attributed to the album's notoriously racy cover, which featured model Dolores Erickson seemingly clothed only in whipped cream. Another measure of the band's popularity is that a number of Tijuana Brass songs were used as theme music for years by the ABC TV game show The Dating Game. In 1966, a short animated film called Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass Double Feature was released. It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film in 1967. The film featured 2 songs by the band, Tijuana Taxi and Spanish Flea. Also in 1967, the Tijuana Brass performed Burt Bacharach's title cut to the first movie version of Casino Royale. Alpert's only number 1 single during this period and the first number 1 hit for his A&M label was a solo effort, This Guy's in Love with You, written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David, featuring a rare vocal. Alpert sang it to his first wife in a 1968 CBS television special titled Beat of the Brass. The sequence was filmed on the beach in Malibu. The song was not intended to be released, but after it was used in the television special, allegedly thousands of telephone calls to CBS asking about it convinced Alpert to release it as a single 2 days after the show aired. Although Alpert's vocal skills and range were limited, the song's technical demands suited him. After years of success, Alpert had a personal crisis in 1969, declaring, "The trumpet is my enemy." He disbanded the Tijuana Brass and stopped performing in public. Eventually, he sought out teacher Carmine Caruso, who never played trumpet a day in his life, but he was a great trumpet teacher. "What I found," Alpert told the New York Times, "is that the thing in my hands is just a piece of plumbing. The real instrument is me, the emotions, not my lip, not my technique, but feelings I learned to stuff away as a kid who came from a very unvocal household. Since then, I've been continually working it out, practicing religiously, and now playing better than ever." The results were noticeable. His 4-year sabbatical over, Herb Alpert returned to the studio, creatively refreshed, his trumpet sounding more soulful and thoughtful, his ears attuned more than ever to jazz. In 1979, 5 years after his last chart hit with the Tijuana Brass, Alpert tried to record a disco album of rearranged brass hits. "It just sounded awful to me," Alpert was quoted later. "I didn't want any part of it," but because the musicians were already booked, Alpert recorded other material, including the instrumental Rise. The song hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 after it was used repeatedly on the soap opera General Hospital. The song also became a hit in the UK, but in a sped-up version, due to British DJs not realizing that the American 12-inch single was recorded at 33 RPMs instead of 45 RPMs. In 2013, Alpert went out on a high point and released Steppin' Out, which won a Grammy for Best Pop Instrumental Album. On October 11, 1989, Philips' subsidiary Polygram announced its acquisition of A&M Records for $500 million. Alpert and Moss later received an extra $200 million payment for Polygram's breach of the terms of the deal. Some of Alpert's highlights include, in 1977, for his contribution to the recording industry, Alpert was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 6929 Hollywood Boulevard. Also, in May 2000, Alpert was awarded an honorary doctorate from the Berklee College of Music. Alpert and Moss were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on March 13, 2006 as non-performer lifetime achievements for their work with A&M. Lastly, Alpert was awarded the National Medal of Arts by President Obama in 2013. On a personal note, I was introduced to Herb Alpert probably in 1980, 1981 with the album Rise. I remember that album. I liked it. I listened to it. But at that time, I was more into Maynard Ferguson, Doc Severinsen, Bill Chase. Was starting to get into Chet Baker, Miles Davis, and there were a number of other trumpet players that I probably enjoyed more than Herb Alpert. It wasn't until maybe 1997-ish when the Notorious B.I.G. song Hypnotize came out, and they used a sample from Herb Alpert from that album Rise. And I started to do some research, and man, that tune just blew up all over the world, and it was an unbelievable, R&B rap tune. And I started doing some research, and I saw that Herb Alpert put out 28 albums, been playing the trumpet for over 50 years, 9 Grammy Awards, one of the most sampled artists of all time. So people liked his music. It just wasn't jazz people, but this was pop people all over the music industry. Notorious B.I.G. obviously with that song Hypnotize took it to another level. Herb Alpert had 6 top 10 hits, sold more than 72 million albums worldwide. He is probably the richest trumpet player of all time, the richest jazz musician of all time, and I believe he's one of the top 10 richest musicians of all time. Now, he's obviously done something right. There's lots to learn from his journey, and in doing research for this, you look at this guy, he #1 Billboard top 100 at both being a vocalist and an instrumentalist. He crossed the spectrums of music as a trumpet player, as a jazz player, and then he got into the music industry with the A&M Records that he owned, and then eventually sold for $500 million. And on top of it all, he's giving back to others through his foundation for music and for people and great causes. And then just to see how successful Herb Alpert has been across so many musical genres, there's lots to learn here. He's done so many things right and been so successful, and he was a trumpet player. There's lots to learn from Herb Alpert's success and his journey, his ups and his downs, persevering, being creative, actually now giving back to others. Huge respect. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this video on one of the most successful trumpet players of all time, Herb Alpert. If you've got a band or musician you'd like featured on this channel, pop it in the comment section. I'll make another video. Thanks for dropping by. Rock on.